Welcome to Loremen, a podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. I'm James Shakeshaft.
And I'm Alistair Beckett-King.
And this is a special guest episode today, Alistair.
It certainly is.
From abroad. All the way down under, or, if you want, through the middle.
Either way.
Either way, it works. It's Nick Mason from the Weekly Planet podcast.
Australia. From the Weekly Planet podcast.
Yes, and Australia.
Brackets. Australia.
Striles.
Australo.
And we dazzle him with a couple of spooky stories from Northampton. Northo.
Up over, as they call it.
Yes. Or through the middle.
Through the middle.
Again, same way, same difference. Psst, Alistair.
Yes, James, you whispering. Is this a mini-sode?
It isn't a mini-sode. This is, I forgot the other time I do whispering is sometimes when we've got a guest, I do whispering.
Yeah, whispering can mean two things. Yeah, sorry.
Because I forget that they've got headphones on and they can hear all of this.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the guest gets here. This is going to be really exciting.
Stop talking. There's a guest, Nick. You're gonna ruin it for the guest.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I just want to be part of something. And now I've ruined it. I'll go.
No, come in. Don't get back onto the Zoom call.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone.
It's the guest, Nick Mason.
Hello, Nick Mason.
Hello. It's great to be here.
It's Nick Mason from the Weekly Planet and loads of other stuff, right?
Yeah, some other stuff, sure. Podcasting, public transport. I'm a podcasting icon and a working class hero. I'm both of those things.
Oh, wow.
So it's great to be here, and big fans of you guys. It's somewhat akin to when you listen to the radio as a kid and you imagine what the presenters look like, and then you see them and you go, I don't know about this, but it's a little different because I know what you guys look like. Obviously, I've seen you on videos and I've listened to the podcast, but it's like my friends, the podcasters are. It's like the parasocial relationship is coming to get me, and I don't know how I feel about it. No, you should be talking and I should be absent, but here we are.
Well, I'm also a very big fan of your podcast, The Weekly Planet, which
Thank you so much.
Is broadly about comic book movies, but it's also about a little bit more than that, I'd say.
Well, at a certain, depending on the episode, we do hit the sort of existential crisis stage. So it's about that as well. It's about
when James said that the podcast was about more than comic books, you had such a look of shock on your face.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
It's about superhero movies and the existential crisis of realizing that you're aging out of superhero movies very rapidly, and yet you're doing a podcast about them.
How do you feel about the advent of that just happened Joss Whedon style of humor, which I, as a non-superhero aficionado, have noticed seems to be prevalent?
I love it. I don't. No, you know what? I hate it, and I'm sick of Kevin Feige, head of Marvel Studios, coming down here and ruining everything. You're ruining movies for everyone. He's behind me, isn't he? There we go. There's a bit of Joss Whedon humour for you.
Well, that just happened. Nick, I think there is a comic book related bit of folklore.
Oh, really?
And that is the comic book writer Alan Moore.
Ooh.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
Here, he's someone who, if God willing, we're still doing this podcast in 200 years' time.
If God curses us.
You must forever walk the earth and do a podcast.
Did we scorn Jesus as he carried the cross?
I think we have multiple times on this podcast.
Yeah, that is true, yeah.
I think only the last or next episode, depending on the release order, we referred to him as being the ultimate prankster. Once again.
He was the ultimate prankster.
The original prankster too.
Yes.
Literally this weekend, my kids got into pranks.
I thought you were going to say they got into the Offspring, and that would not be suitable. They are too young for some of the hot truths that are coming out of the Offspring's music. It's not appropriate. Parental warning.
They're too young for the hot guitar riffs of Noodles from the Offspring.
Did you know that the lead singer, I can't remember his name, but he's a virologist now. He's got like 2
that's
PhDs.
right.
Yeah,
His name might be Dexter, and he's a doctor now. Dr. Dexter, I think.
Dr. Dexter. It's like, because listening to it, you never listened to it and thought, wow, this lyricist seems like a really smart guy. I never had that thought. But I've checked Wikipedia, and he is. He is a really smart guy.
What?
So I was wrong.
Nice work, The Offspring.
And he can count to 5 in Spanish.
And so can I now.
Yeah.
But only at a very certain rhythm.
No, 6 in Spanish, but 5 appears twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5,
Says. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Come on, James. Give it to me, baby.
All right.
So do you think the backing singers are going, all right?
I always do.
Pretty fly for a white guy. All right.
Calm down. You've got a paper to write after this show.
This is one of the worst instances of the roughly 40-year-old men podcast itis that we've begun to suffer with.
Yeah, we're all going to be turfed out of the podcast game, and we're going to have to get a job. No. That's another Offspring, really. I was just trying to shoehorn it in there. I was trying my best. That's all the songs I know. There we go.
Back to Alan Moore, who is from, famously, Northampton. I promised as well that I would practice my Alan Moore accent / impression.
It's so hard to do. Midlands accents can be such a challenge. It just sounds like slowed down Ringo.
Yes, that was my problem. I kept slipping into generic The Beatles whenever I was talking about. You're talking about the mythology inherent in superheroes, but then now I'm up there, and now I'm bigger than Jesus. So apologies, I won't be bringing my Moore impression today. But I did research Northamptonshire, and I've got a couple of tales, which I think we're going to all enjoy very much.
This is very exciting.
Nick, the first tale, I thought, okay, Nick Mason is from Australia. I found that there is a tale from a town in Northamptonshire called Barbie. And I thought, what better way to ingratiate myself with an Australian?
A thing we put a shrimp upon.
Exactly.
The very thing.
It's either a really good way to make friends with an Australian or make a fresh new enemy.
Yeah, what a gamble there, James.
In 1851, a Mrs. Webb, who was rich but a miser, died.
That's how you get to be rich, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't be a poor miser.
No, you would be both a poor miser and a poor miser. Poor at misering.
Very poor.
And she left her house to her nephew, who had a farm nearby. Then the house was empty for a little while, and the neighbour heard bumps and scrapes, even though they knew the house to be empty. And then the Ackleton family moved in, and they started hearing nighttime knocks and bangs. And then one night, their daughter woke them up with a scream. I'm presuming from her own bedroom, she didn't come over into their room and just sort of peer at them and then scream in their faces.
Mother, father, if you have a moment.
You asleep? Okay.
If that kid had been played by Alan Moore, how would that scream have gone, James? No, it's still Ringo, isn't it?
Yeah, that is Ringo.
Mother.
Talking about? No, I can't. I
Such a hard voice to do.
Could you add more sadness to that? Could you add more? Just more. It's getting there, I think. Yeah. Now imagine you've made some very, very poor deals with very large comic book companies, and they've screwed you over for several decades.
That's what's missing from the voices. Is we just can't get that level of sadness.
A soupçon of that level of regret would be nice.
Yeah, I want my name taken off that sad noise.
Yeah.
Oh, there it was. There it was.
There it is. Perfect.
So what it turned out was the child had seen, standing in her room, a tall, thin old lady staring and shaking her head. It's quite a strong look, because normally if you shake your head, you kind of close your eyes, or your eyes kind of go all over the shop. But if you pick a point and stare, that is a very intimidating vibe.
Yeah. Intimidating, or like one of those clowns at a fun house, you put the balls in their mouth. Do you have those? Do you have those in the UK?
We have to throw the ball into the mouth of the clown. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
What happens? Does it, after that, They're just full?
Everyone has a nice time. Everyone cheers. Everyone in the park cheers.
Is that like is it called Kentucky Derby where you have to roll the balls up?
Yeah, it's like a skee ball situation. They're sort of like busts of clown heads.
Mm-hmm.
They rotate with their eyes open creepily, and you throw ping pong balls into their mouths.
Ooh.
And then maybe you get tickets and you exchange it for a stuffed toy of some kind.
Not as big as you'd hoped stuff.
Yeah, those tickets are not worth as much as they look like they would be.
Right.
I know the ones where you shoot the water pistols into their mouth and they have a balloon on their head that pops. But I've not seen the ball-based ones. Those I'm imagining them, and they're very intimidating. That scary old lady reappeared every night for 7 consecutive nights, and they realised that she was always underneath the same spot, which was underneath the hatch to the attic. And the nephew, who was on the nearby farm, decided to investigate, and they decided to investigate the loft with the help of Mr. Appleton. And in that loft, they found a big pile of documents, deeds, paperwork, general sort of admin stuff. And underneath that big pile of documents, they found a big bag of gold.
What?
And some cash.
What?
Yeah.
And some ready cash.
And some ready money.
Some ready cash.
Wow.
My goodness, some traveller's checks. My goodness.
They examined the paperwork and, well, this is the story that the nephew says. It showed that Mrs. Webb had a number of debts and he used the money to pay off those debts and then the ghost stopped appearing.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so she just had certain bits of admin, like unfinished business in a really literal sense.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Very boring unfinished business. And she...
Not a score to settle, just a few bills to pay.
Yeah.
All right.
Outstanding mobile phone contracts or what have you. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I must say the shake of the head, to me, does not... That's not an effective clue in terms of if you want to be like, listen, I've got some accounting to do. I've got check my accounts payable, and also there's gold above me. Maybe look up, Ghost Lady.
Yeah, glance up. A nod, if anything, would have invited the viewer to go upwards.
Or maybe do the sort of, the sort of get the bill mime that you do in a restaurant.
Absolutely.
Yes.
At least that, to imply the idea of money. Or, rub your fingers together and shake
That's
your head.
a good one too, yeah.
To say money's not good. Don't talk to me about money. Maybe she was just upset because she could see that the nearest person to finding the money was like a 6-year-old who is not going to have the business acumen to sort those debts out.
No, my goodness, no. Also, as a family, you're not going into that attic. You're not checking every available space.
As a father,
go on.
As a father, Nick, we moved into a house, and I knew it was my job to go and look in that loft. I was too scared. I just said I
James,
did.
I'm so glad you said that because we've moved into a small flat and it's in the eaves and we've got a small attic above it. And I just had to say that I'm just going to go in it because it's really scary. Like I'm not going in. It's really scary. And I know my hair would touch the beams, which have definitely got spiders in them.
Your hair would get full of bats.
Bats
in a hot second.
Well, you live in Oxfordshire, so we know your house is brimming with bats.
Whoa! No!
Maggots.
There was one bat on one night, and we got rid of that bat. And that's very important that is, for legal reasons, that is said because if you have
Nick,
bats,
it's full of
sounds like
bats.
it's full of bats.
It's a real problem. It's not
No,
full
in the
of
UK,
bats.
it's illegal to have your house full of bats, which is why James is denying it.
It is very illegal.
It's a serious crime.
It is
I know in
because
Australia you can have as many as you want, but not here.
Sounds like James hasn't paid his bat license.
No. What it is, the local council. Local councillors are a superstitious, cowardly lot, and so they don't come round if you're full of bats.
They don't have a bat detector van. Sounds like a much less good version of the Batmobile.
Yes, yeah.
Right. When Batman wants to find out who hasn't been paying his TV license.
But it would have great sonar, I suppose, like the beady thing.
Well, I'm not sure if you can really detect TVs. Can you? Like Nick, sorry, this may be too British. Britain, you have to have a TV license. And for years, we had adverts on the TV where they'll be like, oh, the detector van is out to get you, detecting who has a television but didn't have a TV license. And I, as a skeptic, don't believe that technology exists. I think it was a lie.
a sort of Big Brother for detecting who was watching Big Brother. That sort of
Yeah,
Exactly.
situation.
Exactly.
Where this is the weirdest dystopia I've ever heard about, but this is delightful. It's the little things that separate our cultures, you know. A TV detecting van wouldn't fly over here. Not at all.
Either they have the technology to detect unlicensed televisions, or they have a list of all the addresses in a town and a list of the addresses that have TV licenses. And they do some kind of maths jiggery pokery to knock on the doors of the people who don't have TV licenses without the need for some kind of advanced technology for detecting televisions.
but they still put the satellite dish on the van.
They do still drive around with the fake van, but the van does nothing.
It's just a little guy inside turning it round.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Please, listener, correct me if I'm wrong. But it strikes me that TV technology has changed over the years. Like, they're not cathode ray tubes anymore. So what are you claiming to be detecting? What are you detecting? You liars!
Whoa, there is that little form, that disclaimer you have to click when you go on like the BBC website to say, I do have a TV licence.
Yes.
Maybe they've got a little satellite dish that detects if you
Beep, 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 beep. If you click that.
click it like a liar would.
So we've made the UK sound like a nightmarish dystopia there. Sorry, Nick.
That's quite all right. Everything we have is poisonous. So, horses for courses in a lot of ways. That's
Yeah, you've got poisonous horses. Wow.
Yes, dressage is a nightmare. Once they get loose, get into the stands, you're in a lot of trouble. So anyway, James, you're avoiding that you have bats. That's sorry.
You know, right. Did we talk about this when I talked about the batastrophe? I think it was a special bonus episode. I got attacked by a bat in the night.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out, like, if you have bats in your house, you're not allowed to move them on because they're like a protected species or something. But there is a job of a bat detector. There is like a person that comes round. They charge a lot of money, like £1,000
Wow.
to come round and tell you whether you have bats or not. That is all they do. There's no further. They don't rehouse the bats. They don't.
They just tell you.
Sort of act as a sort of in between
They
you
don't
and
give
the
you any
bats.
kind of bat repellent spray?
That would be
No, you don't
perfect.
get any bat repellent.
Do they have a utility belt, these guys?
Is it a no bat, no fee situation? So if you don't have any bats, they don't charge you? Or
Same price.
wow.
So it's a fixed call-out price just to know if there is a bat.
If you're getting a bat detector around, you've got a pretty strong suspicion you got a bat.
Yeah, because you've seen a bat in your house.
They probably go around like the alley behind your house late at night and they flap an umbrella really quickly and just they put the fear of a bat in you, and then they come round and they clean up.
They've got tame bats that they release.
Yeah.
And then they whistle them home at night.
This is like an exorcism, but for bats.
Are you saying that the vicars go around opening umbrellas to scare people into thinking that they're...
I'm saying the vicars are creating the ghosts, yes. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I have another tale. So that was a spooky one.
That was a spooky one.
I've got a weird one.
Oh,
Yes.
It's really odd.
Okay, great.
So this takes place in the town of Weed-on-Beck.
Because Australians, they love a barbecue and they love to wee on the musical artist Beck. That's very Australian.
Beck in this context
It's like, I'm a
refers-
loser, baby. Why don't you wee on me?
There we go. Hey,
Sorry.
Beck, cop some of this mellow gold, Beck.
You're listening to roughly 40-year-old men podcasting.
That's right.
Yeah, but no, Beck in this context refers to the church's connections to some French abbey. And the weed on, there's no explanation for that at the moment.
It's not spelt as in Joss.
No, as in weed on. Past tense. I think maybe it was named by a rival town. They didn't like him.
Yeah.
The Shelbyville did it. The Shelbyville town.
Yeah.
Got him. Yeah.
Now, that church in that town has a weather vane in the shape of a flying goose. And I'm going to tell you why. This is the miracle of the geese. So,
Banging title. Well done.
I love this. Yeah, this is good.
so if you were to visit the UK, you wanted to see some wild geese.
Sure.
You'd think, I might go to Weed-on-Beck. They're obviously into geese there. I'll probably see a wild goose. No, you won't.
Oh.
Not anymore.
That Thanks for really getting into that.
Oh, yeah, I
Nick.
tricked you. Really tricked you there.
Oh, my heart. Oh, what a roller coaster of promises of geese. My goodness.
That's what James is like. He'll just dangle a goose in front of you and then he'll whip it away.
Yeah. I'll go around the back of your house and open an umbrella that sounds like a goose just to get you juiced up for geese.
This is like the time I heard about up and coming Hollywood star Ryan Gosling. I'm like, he's a man. Oh, he's a man. Oh, all right, fine, I guess.
In fact, you would have to go back to the early 7th century to see a wild goose in Whedonic. Yeah.
Is this some sort of St. Patrick situation? Did a man remove all the geese somehow?
It was St. Verberg, and she was a nun. And in fact, she was a princess that became a nun. Her dad was the King of Mercia.
You're making all this up.
And when you hear the names...
This is like when you're talking to a little kid and he's trying to impress you. Actually, they were a princess and also a nun, and their father was the king.
Yeah, her father was the king, King Wolf here.
Oh,
which again sounds like a warning.
No geese here, but some wolf
Definitely wolf. And King Wolf here was considered a heathen because he married a Christian woman, Manilda.
Manilda.
That's the full name,
Yep.
Manilda.
Okay.
It's not me making up the name.
Okay. That's not you trying to find the spot and they're called Manilda. Manilda? Manilda.
He became the first Mercian king to be baptized. He helped to build the abbey at... Now, this is a tough one. Medeshamstead.
Oh.
Medeshamstead, which is now known as Peterborough, which is much easier.
It sounds like one of those long ones where it's actually pronounced Mumsley.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yes. I apologise to all the people who are writing in right now to correct my
It's pronounced
pronunciation.
Mumsley. No, sorry, they'd say it like Alan Moore, wouldn't they? It's pronounced Mumsley. It's pronounced Mumsley.
I'm not even the best drummer in the Beatles. Alan, come on, cheer yourself up, mate. So, Wolf here and Manilda had 4 children, one of which was the daughter Verberg. Verberg, edit that in. And she was born in Stone in Staffordshire, and she made a vow to become a nun. But her father was very against that. He wanted her to marry Werbod.
So Werbod and Verberg.
Werberg, Wolf here, and Manilda.
Right.
I love it. I'm loving it. Okay, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but names are doing very well in this episode.
Yeah, I read her family tree basically because it's so hilariously named.
It does sound a little bit like you have too much peanut butter in your mouth, but I remember.
So Wolf here died in 675, and finally Verberg got her wish to become a nun. And she became a nun, and she became the abbess of the local abbey in Whedonic. And this is where she performed her most famous miracle. So one summer, the crop fields around Whedonic were infested with geese. It was a big invasion of honking geese. They were eating all the corn. They were eating all the fruit. You know, geese.
Wow, that's like one of the plagues of Egypt that they just skip over because it doesn't sound that bad.
No, but it would be bad. It'd be really annoying.
I know swans can break an arm, but what about geese?
A finger?
A toe?
Yeah, your wrist. They'll probably sprain your wrist. More than a duck.
Keep small children away, though.
Yes.
Oh, more than a duck, of course.
More than a duck. A duck will just, impersonate you for fraudulent reasons or get back from the attic. Low-level stuff.
Yeah.
That's the history of Verberg. Now, Whedonic, now full of geese. And bizarrely, someone had to tell Verberg this rather than her just noticing it from the noise of geese that would be all over the town. But someone told her about it, and she was like, right, I'm going to sort this out. So she commanded a servant go hastily to drive these wild geese and bring home to her place, there to be penned.
Okay, well, so far it sounds like the servant should be getting the sainthood, if you ask me. But isn't it always the way? The boss gets the credit.
The servant refuses to. The servant's like, no, these are wild geese. There's no way I'm going to be able to drive them. And a pen is like a cage without a roof on it. So it's just the sides is a pen
That's true, yes. So if a goose didn't really want to be kept in a pen, it wouldn't work. It's not like sheep.
Very easily fly away. They fly away at the drop of a hat. A cheeky goose. This allows me to do my dad joke whenever I go to a zoo with my children, and the main attraction in the pen is not there, but a pigeon has flown in and is just eating some of the animals' food. I was saying, you see pigeons at home. We're wasting our money here at this zoo. Anyway,
Dad, can we see the bats? Can we see bats at home?
Shut up about.
Dad, can we see
Shut up about the bats.
Done. Shh.
It's really fun being my child. Right. So the servant, and this is according to Life of Verberg by Henry Bradshaw from the 1500s. This is an old poem. It's so old, it doesn't really rhyme.
That's the best ones.
I don't know, because I dislike poems. So I don't know if I'd rather they rhymed, so at least you know what you're getting into. Or it's like sometimes you get faked out with a poem. You think it's prose. Blooming not. It's got a pentameter going on in there.
James is a poetry detector. He'll come out for about $1,000. He'll wave his wand around, and he'll tell you if something is iambic.
Yeah.
But it's a flat fee whether or not he discovers a limerick in a corner.
No, this is actually just a tweet. That'll be £1,000. The signs were there. It's on your phone. So.
And at first, the servant stood still in a study. I'm guessing from the time it means like he stood still and just sort of had a think.
Yeah.
He didn't go into a special room to stand still. Supposing his lady had been unreasonable, commanding to do a thing impossible. Because he's like, you can't, one, you can't drive wild geese. Two, if I get them in a pen, they're just going to fly away because they're geese. But she said, just less of that back chat, mate, and do it. I'm paraphrasing the poem there. Yeah, she said, do as I say. And he did. And it worked. So this guy was called Alnoth. He approached the field where the geese were and was very surprised that they didn't fly away at this point. They just kind of looked at him. And then he told them to go to his mistress. And they did. Now, he told them to do that with words. So he must have had an inkling that they had some sort of understanding. But they did. But yes, he was still surprised that they did. And it says that not one of them tried to fly away, but they waddled along the path with bowed heads as though ashamed of their bad behaviour.
So all the geese having a little bit of a think.
Guilty geese walking along like, we've really been caught now. It's that blooming abbess. You know her dad was the king. Yeah, I do. I do actually. Yeah. Honk. And they went into the pen. They didn't fly away. And Verberg came in and told them all off. She gave them a real talking to.
Do they have ears? Could you give a goose an earful? Probably a very small quantity, a goose's earful.
More than a duck, but less than a swan.
Yep.
Yeah, they were assembled in front of her. She inspected them, chastised them for their greed, and told them that they were to be imprisoned for the night. Everyone's chatting with geese.
Yep.
This is considered normal. The fact that the geese can fly away and be herded is the weird bit. But the chatting is fine. And apparently they stretched their necks forward as though asking for forgiveness. They stayed there the night, as ordered. And then in the morning, Verberg came down and was like, all right, I hope you've thought about what you've done. I'm not angry with you, geese. Just very disappointed.
Look, I've given you a late checkout, and you can go to the breakfast buffet if you like. Just take whatever you want, and then you have to go.
But at this point, the geese kick off massively, honking, all of them.
I've been at breakfast buffets like that. There's a really hungover stag do all crowded round the really slow toast machine. You know the toast conveyor belt?
Yeah.
It seems like a good idea, but how slow is it? It's too slow.
You need it to go 1.5 times as well. It's never one.
Don't touch the dial because you can't, because they've got a sticker next to it saying, don't touch this dial.
Please don't touch this dial, geese. And you know what? The geese listen to it. That's the odd thing. They go around with their head down, so I touch the dial.
Yeah. I'll just have some beans and a hash brown.
So she returns to them. She's about to let them off. But they kick off. They're all honking, making the noises. And now it's the servant's turn to look guilty. She looks at Ulnath and he's got his head bowed down at this point. She's like, Ulnath, what have you done?
I just painted some ducks. The geese are still out there. I don't know. I can't do nothing with geese.
No, what he did was he killed and ate one for his dinner.
Oh, that wasn't the deal, Almus.
That really wasn't the deal. And we know that the geese know what the deal was. And they knew that he wasn't allowed to be doing that. So she was like, okay, bring me the bones. Bring me the bones of that geese. I've got a little something up my sleeve.
Good, because I was starting to think that this miracle was really low stakes.
It's chatting
but now
to geese.
I think maybe we're getting into it. Yeah, I was really unimpressed by. I was thinking, if this is her main miracle, she's got to be one of the worst saints out there on the roster. But this is looking very promising. If we're gathering the bones, I was thinking she was going to feed Almuth to the geese.
This feels like it's approaching some sort of goose-related necromancy. Like she's going to make a goose skeleton dance or something like that.
A friend of the show, Law of the Land, at a sign from her hand, the flesh begins to come on the bones, and then
It's like horrible stop motion animation.
yeah,
definitely.
this is early Aardman type stuff.
Yeah.
I'm imagining.
Yeah, when it was more sort of weird, adult.
And then the feathers to clothe the flesh until
Blink, 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 blink,
yeah,
blink.
I imagine
blink,
one by
blink,
one.
blink. Yep.
How the Saint would have filmed it would have been they would have pulled them out by like piano wire and then reversed the film is how I'm imagining this.
Yes.
Rather than make up darts to look like feathers and chuck them at the corpse of a bird. This is why I got kicked out of the special effects.
Yeah, it's very Jan Svankmajer. If anybody knows who Jan Svankmajer is. Yeah. He did stop motion animation with meat and bones.
Ooh.
Oh no.
Ooh. That because
very good.
famously that takes ages to do stop motion.
Yeah. You got to be careful when you're animating with meat.
Sure. I'm imagining the beak comes on last and it sort of hits him in the back of the head, Daffy Duck style, and the goose sort of spins it round to the front.
Yes. Yeah. And then that goose is alive again, waddling around.
What happened?
The things I've seen.
I was in hell.
I was in goose hell.
Just a horrible little Event Horizon goose.
Yeah.
Trying to warn the rest of the geese.
And then, that goose takes off, flies away, and all the other geese fly off.
Just like, get me away from here. Well, that's a bona fide miracle.
And to this day, you'll never find a wild goose in Weed-on-Beck.
My goodness.
So, some real strong lessons there for us all to think about.
Yeah.
If we're terrorising a village by eating all their corn.
A modern cynic might suggest that the ecosystem of that particular town doesn't support the profligation of the geese species, but
Geese.
it's probably that magic thing you said. The geese. It's probably the magic thing you said. I think it's probably the magic.
Rather than they ate all the food and then left because they'd eaten all the food. Yeah, it's probably because a nun made them feel guilty. Geese are one of the guiltiest animals. They're aside from humans, they're the only animals to feel guilt.
Hey, I noticed something. I saw a nun on the train the other day, and you used to see nuns on trains all the time, and I just don't see nuns on public transport as much.
No.
So, what's that all about?
Another classic.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was
observation.
coming up with a classic stand-up comedy routine. But where are nuns? They're like white dog poo.
I tell you what, though, I'm seeing more of
Go on.
geese. Loads of cheeky geese.
Right, so it's like charting the population of foxes against rabbits. They go up and down in inverse proportion.
That's right. Natural enemies.
What, are you saying we should hunt nuns?
No, what I'm saying, we need to breed more nuns to keep the goose population in check.
Yeah.
We need to release more nuns into the wild.
Oh, but you can't release them into the world. They're not acclimatized for it. They get pulled apart by the wild nuns. They just at the very least get bullied.
And there's been a devolution. But like far fewer nuns can fly these days. Back in the 70s there was that one.
The flying
But these
nun.
days they're just They just sort of shuffle across the highway, and it's not safe. It's not safe for them. It's cruel, if anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we need to make the nun tunnels. Nunnels.
The nunerail, absolutely.
Oh, that is first class, wonderful stuff. I think we end all podcasts now on that rail. Thank you very much.
Not surprising that an Australian would get that because, of course, nuns were introduced to Australia and briefly overran the outback. Yeah, it's legal to kill them in Australia.
That's right.
Because there's just too many.
Were they put in to reduce the monk population, but it backfired?
That's right. Yeah, it was cane toads, and then we brought the monks in to stop the cane toads, and then the monks are all
Monking.
with their bells and their bowls and etc. And you got to bring the nuns in, and then who knows after that?
So those are my tales.
Wonderful.
Are you ready to score those tales?
Yes, please.
Let's make it happen.
Okay, so first category, just going to go simple, supernatural.
Well, I mean, I love the image of the slender lady turning her head with her eyes open. That was very evocative. I like that. That was suitably spooky. I pictured a very reed thin kind of lady, like a slender man, but a lady.
Yeah, bit more PC.
Yes, absolutely. That's right.
Slender Man's gone woke.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
For me, I woke up and I saw a ghost is the lowest value of ghost because it was a dream.
Sure.
But on this occasion, we've got a bit of backup upstairs.
That's true.
Because just above where that ghost was standing, you've got stuff belonging to that ghost that you might be interested in, gold and documents, etc. So that's quite good. That to me adds value.
Unfinished crossword puzzles and so forth. I just needed 6 down. Now I can leave. Now I can leave this mortal plane. Okay, bye everyone.
I appreciate I'm crossing 2 different tales with one set of scores here, but we've also got
Yep.
We've also got the ability to communicate with a goose.
Well, I mean, communicate with a goose, absolutely. Delightful. But I think the jewel in the crown is horrifically putting the remains of a goose back together. I thought that was again if that's what I want evocative. I want just imagining the noise and the smell. Yeah. And where's the meat coming from? Did it come out of the man who ate the goose? Maybe it just
Yeah.
Oh, I'm suddenly hungry again. Okay, all right. Now I'm a big fan of that. I would give this a 4 for supernatural, I think.
When Nick was miming that, you were miming the meat coming out of his mouth, but we don't know that is how the meat would have come out.
That's true.
Could have been quicker.
That's true. Yes.
We don't know how it happened. But we know it was revolting. I think Nick's right. I think it's a really, really good, creepy 4.
Yes. Lovely. Thank you very much. And then the second category is names. So my first tale, it had some names. They weren't great. And it was in the town of Barbie, which was my misjudged attempt to make this relatable for Nick.
I'm furious. How dare you?
Oh, I'm just going to continue to sip on my cup of tea whilst wearing my bowler hat. But I think I did a lot of great work, well, by reading out a list of names for the second
They
one.
were a good list of names, James. They were good.
Undeniably.
I've forgotten all of them.
We've got Werberg. We've got a wolf here.
That's good.
We've got Manilda.
That's a beautiful power couple name. I got to respect that, I think.
So, I mean, names.
And Joss Whedon-Beck.
And we all weed on Beck.
I think I'm going to give. ALASDAIR, how do you feel about this? I'm thinking a strong 3 to a 4, but I would defer to your expertise.
Well, I was swept up in the excitement. I was going to be more generous.
Well, I'm going to go with a 4. I would say a 4. I would say a 4.
That's very kind.
Thank you for guilting Nick into giving me a higher score. Excellent use of guilt.
That's my role here in the podcast today. Just to be clear, Nick is now walking with bowed head towards a pen. Knowing that what he did was wrong. But James, if you eat him in the night...
Oh.
I'll be so mad.
That brings us to the next category, which is something stinks. Because something stinks. Now, regarding the first story, I am a man in a greenhouse and I'm about to throw a stone about someone lying about what they've got in their loft.
Whoa.
Because, frankly, Mr. Hart, something stinks about your story. I don't know what I don't like about it, but I don't like something about it. It doesn't state explicitly that the nephew remained the owner of the house and rented it out to the Ackletons, or if he'd sold the house to the Ackletons, and by definition would have sold the contents. But then this ghost turns up, and he goes up in the loft, finds a big bag of gold, and then apparently also some bills, which happened to be covered exactly by the amount of gold.
Now, so you're saying here that this is not so much a supernatural event, but some sort of scam situation, some kind of.
I think there's some sort of scam.
You think it's a ruse?
Personally, I think maybe when he was up in that loft with Ackleton, he was like, "Look, we'll split this. We'll say that we're using it to pay off the debts. No one's going to ask anything about what's happened to the money." Or he said to Ackleton, "Oh, yeah, she had a load of debts. I'll take this money away and pay for it." Really, he's buying, things that he would like from the past.
What decade was it? What decade did this happen in?
1850s.
So a Game Boy.
Yeah, I think so. Wouldn't have been colour.
Or maybe it's the lady. She had all these bills and she went, okay, I'll work really hard and I'll save up the exact amount. Then tomorrow's the day and I'll take it all down and I'll go down the bank and I'll pay all my. And then she fell, maybe coming out of the attic.
Yeah.
And I choose to believe. On this podcast, I'm choosing to believe in the magic of this ghost lady.
Okay, then.
I think this is for real. I think she had the exact amount. And then she slipped.
Okay, then.
And it's a sad tale for her. But I think everyone had the best of intentions.
I'm going to have to make up my points on things stinking in a town called Whedon that's full of geese.
Yeah.
Goose poo.
It would stink.
Goose poo is a menace.
Yes.
Yeah, see, I think if there was a corpse up in that house, up in that attic,
that would.
you'd be on track for a 5, I think.
Okay.
If there was, when you said we moved the pile of bills, and there was a scary skeleton.
A pile of Bill.
It's a pile of a man named Bill. I'm thinking of just wild geese en masse. They stink. The leftovers of a goose, that's going to stink. That whole situation.
That was weird.
That's got to stink. But it's stinking in reverse also, which has got to be a whole new level, I think.
That's going to get less
of stink.
Hopefully.
It's going to come at you in a way that it's never like when you eat something, you're going to smell it a certain way, but it being uneaten, that's going to be unearthly and unpleasent, and I
don't think anybody's ever vomited and thought that smells great because it is technically food. Doesn't smell good. It stinks. Frankly, it stinks.
Wow. And you're bold enough to say that on a podcast.
Yep, I'll say it.
Vomit stinks. Wow.
I think we might have to. We'll edit this out, but we'll put this in the Patreon only bit. Some of these opinions are a little bit too hot.
And they don't want you to say that.
Next week, you're going to deliver a notes app apology.
It depends on what you've been eating, I suppose.
Right then.
I'm gonna give this a 4 as well. Thoroughly supernatural stink, I think.
I think it would have been 5, except that Nick has decided to believe the story of the family that found the big bag of gold. But I think you should be very happy with that 4.
I'm shaking my head while staring forward, but it's not doing enough to change the score. So we move on to my final category. Less is Alan Moore.
In as much as our impersonations of Alan Moore, the less they're in the podcast, the better the podcast is.
Exactly. Yep. And despite 2 people doing an impression of Alan Moore, we didn't even add up to 1 Alan Moore.
No, we haven't approached a single Alan Moore, no. In black and white, I look quite like Alan Moore.
You do. Very Alan Moore.
Well, I also have a long coat. I used to have like a military greatcoat in black and white, wearing that.
Oh, that'll do it.
I mean, all right. I looked like as much of a comic book nerd as all of the Alan Moore fans who deliberately dress and look like Alan Moore. Perhaps I didn't reach the man's status himself.
You both had wizardly vibes.
Yeah.
Or have wizardly vibes, to be honest.
Thank you, James.
Him by being an actual wizard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from the fact that we couldn't do an Alan Moore impression, there wasn't a slight Alan Moore reference, I felt, because Alan Moore wrote the comic series Watchmen.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there's I don't know if you've read that. I'm sure many of the people listening to the pod have read that. There's a bit where the guy gets blasted into smithereens, Dr. Manhattan.
And he puts himself back together again,
And he puts himself back together bit by bit. Starts with the skeleton, then the sinews, then the thing.
And then at the end, the goose flies off like, I'm tired of these geese. I'm tired of the tangle of their lives.
Yeah. Honk, honk. That's the last panel.
I'm going to go and sit on Mars.
Yeah, that's the last panel. And there were no geese in Manhattan ever again. That's why he did it. Sorry, spoiler for everyone there.
And then to Mr. Acklington, or whatever he was called at the start, to Mr. Acklington, they were like, so you're going to use all this money to pay bills? And he was like, I did it 30 minutes ago.
Yes.
The bills are paid.
A spoiler alert as well.
Spoiler alert for Watchmen and this episode.
Yes, and just sometimes some of my links just kind of spoil people's day, I imagine.
Spoiler alert, you might not enjoy the next sentence.
James, just imagining listeners hearing that perhaps on the train or on their walk to work or a jog or something and going, oh, that's a 5 in my book. As far as I'm concerned, this has been the favourite part of my day. Let me tell you.
The idea that we could have spoiled someone's commute. Some nun on a train just going,
that's right.
Yeah.
Wimple fizzing with fury.
Some goose with an iPod. That's my Les is Alan Moore pitch. Maybe I'll take my name off it as well because it was that bad a selection of arguments.
Well, I think Nick gave you 5 out of 5. I don't think any of us can remember.
Oh, that was it. Oh, that was genuine. I was real.
Yeah, it was for real. I'll take that. Yeah.
None of us can remember why.
As you were putting together that analogy, or possibly a metaphor, I'm not sure what the definition of either is, of the goose coming back together like a Dr. Manhattan. I'm like, no, that's good. That you've found that link, Matt. I'm loving that. So that was good.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
I can imagine it in my mind, some sort of Looney Tunes parody of the whole situation. Just when they do their delightful pop culture parodies. That's what I'm thinking.
Well,
of.
that's a wonderful set of scores for me. Thank you very much, Nick, and thank you very much for guesting on the show.
You're very welcome.
Where on God's green earth can people find more of you?
Well, you can find me cruising the streets of Melbourne, Australia, in a tram. But if you don't want to do that, because it's kind of a treasure hunt there, you can just go to your podcast catcher of choice and listen to The Weekly Planet, which is a podcast about movies and TV shows and comic books and video games, sometimes with a sort of pretty heavy emphasis on superhero movies, if you can believe that. They're quite popular now. And also you can go to a YouTube channel called Mr. Sunday Movies, and I'm on videos there most weeks. So a bit of fun, similar vibes. So yeah,
hilarious as well, I must say. Very, very funny.
Thank you.
Very enjoyable.
Thank you.
ALASDAIR, could you tell I was doing a bit of a posh voice?
Were you trying to impress Nick Mason by doing a slightly posh voice, James?
I think I was. I should have just called him Maso. Everyone seems to call him Maso.
We called him Mr. Nick Mason.
I've had to edit that down every single time we say Nick.
Thank you very much to Mr. Nick Mason, a.k.a. Maso.
If you enjoy our voices in conjunction with Australian voices, you should also check out some other Australian podcasts that we're featured on.
Correct.
I was on the most recent episode of Do Go On. You'll recognise a couple of people from that.
Indeed. And you and I, we were both on the Book Cheap podcast.
Yes.
With Dave Warnocky.
And of course, check out patreon.com/Loremen pod for all sorts of bonus bits. There's a load of bonus content from this episode and previous ones.
Yeah, go on.
Talking about the Shakespeare play, Much Ado About Nothing. Much Ado About Nothing?
Much Ado About Nothing
by
old Willie Shakes.
Old Billy Shako, as we call him.
That's what they call him in Australia. Oi, Shako, you're riding a play.
What's this first folio? Folio does sound like
an Australian word, yeah.
Australian nickname, but it is the actual name. I don't know what, but it's something to do with Shakespeare. Cool. I think that's it.
Good.
Was there something else, actually? I sent a note because I wanted to not forget things. Oh,
mispronunciations. St. Verberg.
Yes. for everyone who's probably already tweeted me, I have since learned that St. Verberg is pronounced St. Verbers. But I don't know if that is to do with, like, in the same way that, like, in Oxford, it's Magdalen College when it's Mary Magdalene. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, in Australia, it's pronounced Verbo. St. Verbo.
It's St. Verbo, mate. We're probably going to have more Australian listeners than ever on this episode. So
I bet they really appreciate the time we've taken to learn about their culture.
Yes. And mimic it.
Yeah. Australians like to end words with O.
They do love a nickname. I don't know why. And I bloody love them for it.